All right, Nick, let's talk about the LSU Tigers. It is spring ball time down in Baton Rouge, as it is everywhere else in the country. But there's, as always, in spring practice, there's a lot of narratives flying around, a lot of news coming out in the football world, and it's as much needed after a long awaited offseason has taken us.
Yeah, Miles. But before we get into that news, which I think Tigers fans will really love, really appreciate as spring practice has started, we want to hear from LSU Tiger fans in the comment section below. A lot of great new additions, whether recruiting game, guys who are early enrollees, guys coming in through the transfer portal, or guys that were young last year now have the chance to step up. Give us one guy you've got your eye on this spring practice season that you're really looking forward to see what he can do for the Tigers come fall, and let us know who that guy is in the comment section below. All right, Miles, what you got? What's the latest out of LSU?
Yeah, Nick, you talk about young guys, you talk about guys that people are looking forward to, and one place your eye turns is to the quarterback room of LSU and whether or not there's going to be a quarterback competition. Well, that answer isn't as easy as it seems. It's more of a twofold part. Kelly was quick to say that Jaden Daniels is QB1 of the Tigers, but, and that is a but, Nick, he says you have to keep your mind open when looking at quarterbacks, especially young guys, and they're specifically looking at Garrett. I think it's Nussmeier. I don't exactly know how to pronounce his last name. I apologize for that.
Yep.
But he was really good in the rotation against Georgia and Purdue. I think he looked to be a really player on the up and up, could be a star quarterback for LSU. But obviously, Jaden Daniels had a very good season as well last year. So they're going to commit to Daniels, but I think you got to keep an eye on a guy like Garrett Nussmeier because he seems to be very, very intriguing, and he could be like the next big thing right around the corner. So I think this is going to have Daniels looking over his shoulder a little bit during the spring practice. What do you think about these two elite quarterbacks already, Nick, going head-to-head in spring ball?
I think Kelly's comments here are absolutely brilliant. And here's why. Anytime you have a guy who's sort of cemented as the QB1, and we did a report a few months ago, I think, about Jaden Daniels being a dark horse Heisman candidate potentially. You look at a guy like that, and that means everybody else behind him in the depth chart is like, I can't compete with that guy. I'm going to transfer the heck out of here. And that happens to a lot of teams in modern college football. And then what happens is you don't have any depth at that position. So a lot of times, if your quarterback gets hurt, you're throwing in a true freshman or you're throwing in a fifth-year senior who was maybe a preferred walk-on, not the same level of physical talent. Those are the things you obviously want to avoid when you're a team like LSU, you're a potential national title contender, college football playoff kind of team. Obviously went to the SEC title game last season. You want to avoid those situations when you have a quarterback goes down for any short period of time. For example, Alabama's had some issues with Bryce Young and Tua in the past. They've had the ability to have some depth at quarterback. When they slide in guys, they sometimes don't miss a beat. LSU wants to follow that same role. One of the ways you avoid that, if you're Garrett Nussmeier or if you're Brian Kelly talking to Garrett Nussmeier and say, hey, listen, man, look, Jaden Daniels, maybe he's not a QB1. You can beat him out. Even though your mind is like, yeah, Daniels is going to be the guy, but you don't want to get Nussmeier disappointed, want him to up and transfer and leave. And let's be honest, LSU has had some transfer guys leave over the past offseason. I believe Walker Howard was one of those guys who transferred out of LSU for a very similar reason. So I think that's why it was a really brilliant move here to make sure Nussmeier or frankly anybody else doesn't leave just because there's the feeling of, hey, I'm never going to play here. I might as well go somewhere else. And number two, give Daniel some competition, right? He's a good player. He's the leader of this offense. There's really no question in my mind about it. But you don't want him to get him complacent, right? Because he's not like he's Caleb Williams level, right? It's not like he's the best of the best elite. You want to push him to reach his potential. And one of the ways you can do that is to put some competition on him. So for both of those reasons, I think this is a really smart move by Kelly.
Yeah, Nick, and a couple of other stories to look on down the stretch as we watch LSU in spring practice is maybe a look at the cornerback position. LSU synonymous for being called DBU, always having top tier safeties, top tier corners coming out, but there's a lot of new faces on this year's roster with guys going to the NFL, Nick. You look at, newcomers from Texas A&M such as Denver Harris, Syracuse, Deuce Chestnut, Ohio State's J.K. Johnson, Southeastern Louisiana, Zy Alexander, and another really high recruit in Javian Toviano, I believe. There a lot of talent, but there's also a lot of questions. These are young guys. There are some discipline issues with some of the transfers over at Texas A&M specifically. But, I think there's a lot of promise in this young cornerback group. Nick, what do you think about these guys, and do you think the DBU is going to make a return to prominence once again, as they always do?
Yeah, so one of the things that's really important when you have a brand in college football, especially when it comes to recruiting, you don't want to lose that, because once you lose that brand and someone else takes it, it's really, really hard to get it back, right? Penn State for a long time was known for their linebackers and defense. They still kind of are, but that's kind of fallen off a little bit, right, over the past year or two. I think no one really follows them to the way they did maybe in the early 2000s with the Lamar Arringtons and things like that. Obviously, LSU right now is primetime DBU. They have a lot of elite defensive backs. It seems every year come out of there and quickly make an impact in the NFL. And you don't want to lose that brand. So I really love the fact that LSU was aggressive, trying to continue to address that position through the transfer portal, as well as recruiting, as well, developing their own guys. And I love a good competition, right? Because you want to bring out the best of these guys. You want to put forward a good product on the field at that position come fall. So that way you maintain that brand of DBU. That way, next recruiting cycle and next transfer cycle, all these 4 and 5 star defensive backs want to keep coming to LSU, because you don't want to put out a bad product on there. And you don't want recruits to go like, I don't want to go play at LSU. Their secondary stinks. Right. So it's one of those things as well. I think it's really smart by Kelly, making sure there's an open competition, getting the best product at defensive back out on the field so that way you don't lose that all important brand when it comes to recruiting.